So, full disclosure, I'm an investor in H2O and on the board here, and Shri likes to put me out here to be this sort of lightweight entertainment in a crowd of data scientists and algorithms and things that I don't know anything about. I am often asked. I've been a longtime investor here in the Valley, and as Shri just mentioned, I mean, I was the investor in Tesla Motors and was the CEO of Tesla Motors. I was on the board of Zappos. I've been the principal investor behind Crocs, the plastic shoe guys, and the principal investor behind GoPro, and so on. And so now there's all this talk, there's all this talk in the Valley about unicorns and, what. In fact, you guys are all talking about data science and how we can use data science to make our companies bigger and better and be worth more money and all that kind of stuff. And so I have been asked lately to speak a few times about, what's different in the world today about creating companies that are very successful. And I was recently asked to give a talk, what companies have to do today to adapt to become successful companies in the future. And when I was thinking through that, I actually decided to try to distill some information from the successful companies that I know about, and what has made them successful. And I've actually really come to the conclusion that it's back to the future. I mean, what makes for great companies today is what made for great companies 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 50 years ago, and I'm pretty sure it's the same things that are going to make for successful companies in the future. So I thought I'd walk through those. And actually I have only one slide. I don't know if you guys have my slide. I don't actually need it because it's only got 7 words on it and I remember them. But you can check and see. But I'll start. And so what I did was I went through my own experience with my own company and these other companies that I've been involved with that have been successful. And of course, we're hoping for the same things at H2O and other new companies that we're working on. So what makes these companies really work? And I came up with 7 words, and as I said, I remember them. So, I mean, I can do it without the slide. The first one is passion. And it's really interesting. So, and I'm sure many of you know Shri and the management here at H2O, and you know how excited they are about what they're doing. And Hillary's talk similar. People who really believe in what they're doing, and you can tell. You really feel a sense of passion. But then you have all kinds of companies being started today by graduates of Berkeley and graduates at Stanford Business School and investment bankers who are analysts, and they say, oh, there's a hole in the market. Let's see. Nobody's done e-commerce for, children's eyeglasses. Nobody's done that. So, okay, I see these things. And so you have these people who don't have any passion at all for what it is they're doing. They're just trying to create the next unicorn. Oh, it'd be really cool. And it's amazing how many business plans come across the desk now where the asking price for the next round of investment is $1 billion exactly, so that then they can get on the unicorn list and everybody will write about all these companies, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, you have a sense that when you meet people with passion who really believe in what they're doing, you can just tell it when you meet them, when you talk to them, and it's one of the reasons that we decided to invest in H2O, because Shri is this way for sure. Nick Woodman at GoPro. I mean, here's a guy who is a surfer and wanted to. You guys know the GoPro story, right? I mean, amazing story. So Nick Woodman, is a surfer, and he wants to take videotape of himself surfing, and there wasn't a way to do it. So he goes and he buys an off-the-shelf camera, and he straps it on his wrist, and he does a little Velcro thing, and 11 years later, it's $2 billion of revenue and $300 million of profit this year, whatever the numbers are. But this is a guy who, even today, now he's a multi-billionaire, and he comes to work, and all he can think about is that we can make this so much better. This just isn't good enough. He's always driving his people because he's like totally passionate, totally interested in what he's doing. the money is secondary. It's how do we make a better experience? It's really fantastic. So you have this is my first word, is passion, is what makes for successful companies. It's another interesting thing you see, that what happens to companies after many generations, and I know that some of you here are from very big companies and so on. But one of the things that happens to companies that have been in business for a long time is that they tend to lose their passion, because the people who were passionate, who created it, have retired or died or whatever. And you see that as companies. I mean, I'd hate to use Hewlett-Packard as an example, because I think it's really been a great company in all the years that I've been here. And it's just much more difficult to see where the passion is in that company today. And Hewlett and Packard have both passed on. So I start there, and as an investor, when I think about companies, if there isn't real passion for the product or the service, then it's something that isn't interesting to us. Second word I have is focus, which is another thing, and this is for sure true of the bigger companies. Smaller companies tend to focus because they only have so many resources, and there's always lots to do, and they have to pick certain things they want to do. But it's amazing to see how focus is lost in companies as they grow. And then companies wind up doing all kinds of things that they think they should, that they think they can. I mean, I can give you a couple examples of this. I was on the board of an investor in Zappos for a long time. I'm sure you guys all know Zappos, right? Use them. We're going to talk about another thing they were particularly good at. But this was a company with fantastic performance, fantastic customer interaction, and an incredible ability to sell shoes. And there was a period of time there where, Zappos decided to sell computer equipment and to sell camping equipment, and these things, fell completely flat. I mean, first of all, the company didn't have a passion for it. Secondly, it was just a lack of focus. And what they didn't realize is the reason they were so good at selling shoes was because they had every kind of shoe and knew everything, all the dialogue, the way to talk about selling shoes and how to present them. And they got to camping equipment, they didn't have all the kinds of camping equipment, and customers thought differently about the interaction with the company. And of course, I was on the board at the time. We're going like, I can't believe you really want to sell camping equipment, but okay, because when you're on the board, you tend to let the CEOs do what they want to do until they mess it up pretty bad, and then, that was a complete disaster. So you can't get camping equipment from or computer equipment from Zappos today. But it's interesting to see that there's all these acquisitions going on. Dell buys EMC, and you get all these big kinds of companies. IBM buys Price Waterhouse or whatever it is. And so you have these companies that are trying to somehow aggregate and get bigger and stronger and have more things that they can do and all that kind of stuff. And they almost always fail. In fact, one of the things that I say all the time is that big acquisitions are almost always value destroying. All right, Rakesh, I'm going to throw something in about your company here. One of our other companies, Rakesh from Flywheel. So you have, watching all these companies doing this, and then, and then you turn the page in the Wall Street Journal or wherever you get your news, and you have the activists who are in here saying, break it up, break it up, break it up, focus, 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 right? Which is, even Hewlett-Packard now, is the big story this week, or maybe the end of last week, breaking into two companies. Why? Because they figured out that trying to do a whole bunch of different things under and one tent doesn't work so well. Whereas if you get smaller and more focused, the company is likely to be more successful. So I use focus as the second thing that I think is really important for companies, that people just not be trying to do things they aren't good at or aren't passionate about or don't have a reason to want to do it. So that's the second. The third one I use is simplicity. And it's interesting from all the data science stuff and how to, in Hillary's talk here, talking about how to get, and maybe you didn't all hear it, but how to get the kernel of something useful out of all these massive amounts of data. Simplicity is one of these incredible words. It's simple. And so you have, everybody knows here. Everybody has the experience. You have some software programs. You can't figure out how to get half the things done. I don't know. I have a fancy car, and I'm always reading the manual going, how do you change the time? Daylight savings changed. I can't figure out how to change the time, right? We all have this experience. It just drives you completely insane. And it's really, really hard to do. I think that as product designers, and I work with a bunch of companies where I'm trying to get the people to go, can we just be finished now? I'm sure many of you have this experience where products just tend to keep on, we add features and we can't release it because we're going to add some new features, and you're not doing that, are you, Sri? But it's human nature. The more things we can add, the more powerful our product or service will be, the more people will be attracted to it, and in truth, the reverse is very often the real answer, which is that if you strip out functionality and make it easy for people, or make it simple, to use my word simplicity, make it simple for people to accomplish that simple task they're trying to get to, like changing the time in your car. I mean, if you can simplify things, it makes it much, much easier for people to use, and then they feel better about it. And I swear this is the toughest thing to get people to do. So I'll have to talk about this some more. Okay, customer service is one of the most wonderful things to think about. I mean, and every single company has a customer service issue. Everyone. You either have a few customers, or you have a lot of customers, and we've heard the customer is always right, which is kind of a mantra around customer service for years and years and years and years. Whatever the customer needs, you have to serve that customer, and yet customer service is awful in the world. Anybody disagree with that statement? I mean, it's just dead awful. I mean, in fact, unfortunately, all the data scientists and all these new products allow you to create these algorithms so when people call, they don't have to talk to a human being, and it'll figure out what their needs are and give them the right answer and stuff like that. In some ways, this is making it just so much worse. Sorry about that. I love H2O, I do. But you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Customer service. So let me tell you my favorite customer service stories, and maybe I told this last year if I'm repeating myself for anybody who heard me speak last year, I'm sorry about that. But Zappos, I think everybody knows, was a very well-known company for customer service, and they really, really believed it, lived it, were passionate about it, were focused on it. I mean, everybody who got hired at H2O, everybody who got hired at Zappos had to spend a month in the customer service department so that they understood that this is a company that really thought that customer service was important. And their rule of customer service was, one, phone had to be picked up in 6 seconds, I think it was, and I presume it's still that way. But the other was that there was no time limit. Do you guys know the story? Anybody know the story? I mean, it's amazing. In fact, Tony Hsieh, the CEO, wrote this book called Selling Happiness, talks a lot about this stuff. No time limit on talking to people. And they used to celebrate the longest customer service call. They'd say, oh, we broke a new record. And it's been some years since I've been on the board, but when I left, the record was 8.5 hours. You got to love that, honestly, right? I mean, and of course, the company wouldn't be like wonderful if everybody was spending 8.5 hours talking to their friends as a function of customer service. But the point of it was they did it that way, which is the right way to have customer service is you help your customer until you're finished. And if that can be done in 12 seconds, that's great. But most customer service departments, and you get the call centers and stuff like that, have clocks running, and you only get 4 minutes to be off, and they run you through all these automated answering algorithm things, and before you can ever talk to a person. By the way, in case you have this problem, if you usually, when you're going through all that, if you just hit 0, you oftentimes just can go straight to a person. But so customer service is different with all different kinds of businesses. One of the interesting things about this H2O world, what you're doing here, is that using data science. There are many, many applications, as you know, to use data science to provide better customer service, to really understand what people need, what they're trying to get at by having a lot of data available to you and being able to sift through really quickly and all that kind of stuff. So I actually think that's a tool that can be used really, really well in improving customer service. But this is never going to change. You go to a restaurant, the server sees that you haven't finished your meal, and they say, "Was that okay?" And you say, "Really, it wasn't kind of what I hope for, something like that. And good customer service, they go, oh, we're fixing that. They take it away, and I'll get you something else, take it off the bill, whatever they do. And as soon as you have that experience, you go, that was like really good. That was like what I'd call really good customer service. It's just you don't have that experience that often. Am I right? But when you have the experience, you go like, it's low bar. You have the experience, you go, that was just breathtaking. So good customer service is important to any kind of a company. It doesn't really matter what it is. The next one is technology. And technology is interesting because everybody says, I have great technology. Technology, today the world really is different in the sense that you have all these new technology. I thought this was fantastic. If you weren't here, Hillary had the slide showing the cost of 128 megabytes in, 2005. And there was a little chart there, and it shows 128 gigabytes in 2014. And the cost per gigabyte was 10 cents on the chart, 2014. And I'm chairman of SanDisk, which was kind of nice to see a little picture of SanDisk. And I can report to you that the cost of a gigabyte in NAND flash memory today, 2015, is 5 cents. 5 cents for a gigabyte. I always tell, because I'm old, I tell the story about how I ran my first company in 1977 with a 5 megabyte drive. And it was big. We had a separate room for it. Anyway, that was what I was going to talk about today. But technology, obviously there's all kinds of new technologies available, and you're creating them here. And it's really important that people use new technologies in their businesses. It's one of those things that it's necessary but not sufficient. And one of the things that I'm finding is that technology can also get in the way, back to my simplicity thing. You can have, sometimes technology can make things a lot more complicated than they really should be. One of my simple examples of this is Indiegogo. So everybody knows Indiegogo, right? So now you have this community event. You can take your product, you can put it on Indiegogo, and you take a whole bunch of orders for it. And so now people have this way of getting their products to market, at least from a marketing and sales standpoint, in a way that was never available before. It used to take a lot of money and time, and you had to have conventions like this, and people would come in and all that stuff. And so now it's very easy. So people come up with a product idea, and then they put it out in the world, and they get bunches of orders. I see things crossing my desk all the time. I've got $10 million of orders from Indiegogo. And what I find is that enables people to sell products that are not anywhere close to ready. The amazing thing is how it's basically almost nobody who does this actually knows how to get a product to market. So they're using technology to bypass all the steps that it normally would take to have a product and have it vetted, make sure it was good and understood and all that kind of stuff. And I just use that as a very simple example of how sometimes technology can get in the way of doing things the way they actually need to get done in order to be successful. So, but that having been said, technology is wonderful, and we all know the story about Tesla Motors, and the idea, people often thought that, and still think probably today, that Elon Musk, who runs the company today, his mission was to build, a great electric car, and his mission was never to build a great electric car. His mission was always to build a great car. And so he created all these other things, like, the doors, the door handles pop out when you come close to it, and things like that. There's the big screen. Anybody here driving a Tesla, like an S model? You guys just sort of, what's that mean? I did a test drive. So, they have, so Elon and the team there, they rethought what an automobile is. And of course, the self-driving cars are also rethinking it. But rethought what a car was and said, why isn't a car a software product like a phone? Why isn't it? And so they basically went and said, you can download new features to the car every night. And people in Detroit are going like, these people are completely insane. And it's interesting to note that General Motors and Ford and Chrysler and all these guys, they're all opening centers out here in the valley to hire software engineers to help them rethink the car the way Tesla is. And so clearly, I mean, technology changes everything. You think about self-driving cars and everybody can have their cocktails and get home safely is, I think, one of the great things that we can ever do. Anyway, so that's the technology piece. One that's particularly near and dear to my heart is the next one, which is profitability. Such a quaint word, isn't it? I mean, it's really amazing. I tell you, look, there's all kinds of great companies in the world that never make any money, and Tesla Motors is one. I mean, they lose $100 million a month or some number, and you got Salesforce and Workday and all these guys. I was talking to the CEO of Workday, a year ago, and I said, it's really a good thing I'm not on your board. And he said, why is that? And I said, because I'd make sure you'd make some money. I don't quite get this thing. There's this whole mantra in the world. Of course, all these unicorns, hardly anybody makes any money. And hardly any of the companies make money. Most of them don't. And what happens is, as an investor and as a company, I make a couple of comments. And for those of you who are here who have smaller companies, I think it's really important to think about this. I talk about it to entrepreneurs all the time. It's really important to get to a place where you're making money for a couple of reasons. One is that when you lose money all the time and you go and raise money, and you're always raising money, first of all, you can get in a total lack of discipline. It's perfectly obvious to see that. But also, people get used to not making money. They really do. They learn that not making money is okay. And that sets a whole culture of not making money that I just think is a really, really bad thing. And companies that make money, GoPro being one of them, really, really a very profitable company, they get instincts the other way. They get to thinking about making money as a really good thing. And unfortunately, I've had the experience lately too of having to participate in the shutdowns of a couple of companies. And there are companies, some of them that had revenue growth every year, but losing money, continuing to lose money, continuing to raise money, always thought they could raise money as long as they were growing, until one day they couldn't. Until that one day they went and the investors said, you know what, we've had enough. We've got enough money invested in this, so go find some other investors, and they go out to look for other investors, and the other investors don't want to come in because this company has just continually been losing money, and then they can't find any investors, and then they have to shut down. I mean, the worst one of these, and I hate to tell this story, anybody here know the company Quirky? A couple of you guys know Quirky? Kind of really a cool company. I mean, CEO, really, really charismatic, really good. It was an outsourced innovation company. Let people come and put out their ideas for new products, and then Quirky would take them to market. And really a fantastic CEO, and I feel badly for him, but they went through $185 million in like 6 rounds of raising money. Company was always growing, but it was never profitable, and they were never really getting the business model right. And finally, one day, the investors all said, we're not putting any more money in. The CEO, very charismatic guy, and was really good at raising money, and he said, no problem, I'm just going to go raise more money, and he couldn't, and ultimately the business got shut down. So I talk to people about profitability all the time. I just think it's an important discipline. I teach a class at Stanford Business School, and this is one of the little speeches I give when I get to the profitability section. I say, there's 3 ways to get money into a company. You can sell stock, you can borrow money, or you can earn it. And I tell everybody, earning it's just like way the best. So that's my soapbox about profitability. Okay, the last one is one that really is new. So those 6 that I just went through, these things have always been true. They're always going to be true. It doesn't matter what the technologies are or where the centers of excellence in the world are or whatever. But the last one is one I find interesting, and it's what this is about, and that's the word community. And community really is different. This is really, we all talk about social and mobile and how they're enabling all these businesses. And one of the reasons they're enabling all these businesses is because we've made it very easy to create a sense of community, which was never the case before. You always have, you have trades, you have religions, people go to church, they have a community, whatever it is. And, I drive a Porsche. I love driving my Porsche, drive down the highway, and it's very frequent that another Porsche will drive up by me and give me the high sign. Why is that? And I'm always thinking about that. That's interesting. Why is this guy being my friend? It's because we have something in common. We both drive Porsches. And what's happened with the new technologies, and you all know this is what this is. This is H2O world. It's because there's a community here. And communities are interesting because people get to be, better by sharing their experiences and all of what's going on here today. But also it makes things fun. It really does. It makes fun to know that, I have a dog like your dog. I have a car like your car. I like drinking what you drink. I like eating what you eat. I like the movies that you go to and stuff like that. It's fun to be involved with people who share similar experiences. And what's happened today with all the social and mobile and, technologies is it's made it very easy to find, your community. And it's amazing. I see business plans all the time for, people who want to swap stories about fixing their cars. And then, I'm always going like, how big is that community? It turns out these communities are a lot bigger than you think. And so it's always very interesting to see. And people like these. And now it's gotten much easier to find a community, to participate in a community through Twitter and Facebook and all the other things. And I think it makes it fun. And so in that regard, I'll end my talk by saying I am personally, delighted to be a member of the H2O community, and I'm glad you guys are all participating. So thank you.